Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome all of you this afternoon. We are in the midst of the series of webinars being tourism ready by Government of Uttar Pradesh, Department of Tourism, MKITM and FICCI. This series was inaugurated on 20th of July by the Honorable Minister of Tourism and Culture, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Dr. Neelkant Tiwari, and the Principal Secretary, Tourism and Culture, Mr. Mukesh Mishra. In today's edition, we take up a very important topic and a very relevant one as well, the role of media in reviving tourism. Now, the role of media in reviving tourism here means that we are in the period when the pandemic is ebbing and things are coming back to normal, limping to normalcy, I would say. And then the role of media in the revival of tourism is very, very important. And to talk on this topic, we have a very, very lustrous panel, which includes Mr. Avinash Chandra Mishra, Joint Director, Tourism, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Ms. Puneetinder Kaur Sidhu, who's a travel writer, columnist, and author. Ms. Mariellen, a travel writer and blogger who runs a blog for travelers called Breathe, Dream, Go. We have with us also Ms. Bharti Sharma, the editor of Travel Turtle, a renowned travel and leisure magazine. And we have Ms. Phillippa K, travel writer and blogger, Memsahib to India, and founder, Memsahib in India, and founder of a travel consultancy, Indian Experiences. I welcome all of you this afternoon, and we are being joined at the moment by 3,493 participants. I welcome all of them as well on the different platforms of the Government of Uttar Pradesh and FICCI. Ladies and gentlemen, the state of Uttar Pradesh has been in the forefront of tourism. And since a few years, it has been working for tourism by way of a four-pronged strategy: identification and mapping, detailed planning, time-bound project implementation, and quantifiable monitoring. The mapping of tourism circuits of religious importance in the state was a huge step in this direction, and probably for the first time. Be it the Ramayana circuit, the Krishna, the Buddha, Jain, or even the great Sufi saints, all were mapped strategically in Uttar Pradesh with a primary objective to boost the state's economy through tourism in a time-bound manner. The forlorn region of Bundelkhand and Purvanchal have been for the first time brought in the mainstream under this government. How interesting is the fact that tourism is one activity that can happen even in the regions that may not be so rich in cultural resources or may not have fertile land. Where many businesses fail, tourism may still flourish. Regions that were long ignored have finally found savior in this government through tourism. Uttar Pradesh, ladies and gentlemen, is one state where not only gods dwelled, but gods were actually born, including Lord Rama and Lord Krishna. And then there were great sages and preachers too who were born here. Two names that I remember immediately are that of Swami Narayan of Akshardham fame and Maharishi Patanjali, to whom the credit of the yoga and the Indian traditional medicine system is attributed to. Three mega projects that will be the game changer for tourism are Kashi Vishwanath Corridor redevelopment in Varanasi and Ayodhya Development Project. And now, very recently, Vindhyachal has been included in this list. All these are examples of urban planning with tourism as a prime focus, proving that Uttar Pradesh government sees tourism as an economic driver. Uttar Pradesh, by virtue, was always for tourism, and continued efforts of the government has brought it on the trajectory of growth, taking it to the next level. In all this, the role of media plays a huge role. Our day-to-day decisions are increasingly being influenced by media and social media. Media plays a pivotal role in influencing our purchase decisions, especially in the leisure segment. Artificial intelligence has made huge inroads to show us on the phone just what we want to see, thereby making our lives less complex than it used to be in earlier days. Be it deciding on the destination or deciding about the hotels or the activities. And the newest entrant into this list is the COVID restrictions and safety measures, all of which we are being informed by the media. Media, I would say, is the driver of growth in tourism and has most important role to play in popularizing any destination. The UNWTO report has shown the signs of recovery by the first quarter of 2021. Domestic demand is recovering and international demand will, of course, follow. Being at homes in the lockdown, is screen time of people increased by almost 200%. And this means more research on destinations, more curiosity, and much more knowledge. In the coming months, there is a sign of an increase in travel and tourism activities. Thus, it is just the right time for states and businesses to focus on their media campaigns to be able to get a larger pie of tourists. The concerning fact is a bit of the image reconstruction that India will now need to do after the negative news of the COVID second wave went around untamed, and surprisingly, media refrained from showing positive stories and how quickly it was all controlled. And of course, the record number of vaccinations that India has administered to get rid of COVID in spite of its size and population. Today, at the moment, when we sit here and talk about the subject, we are having a record vaccination campaign going on in the city of Lucknow, which is for the first time that the target is 87,000 vaccines, which will be given to the people in just one day today in Lucknow. So probably a lot of work is being done by the government in this direction also to make us all ready and normalize everything as soon as possible. The states and the stakeholders in travel and tourism need to relook at the business strategies, concentrating on being empathetic and responsible rather than merely profitable now. Assurance of COVID and other health and safety is the most important part of a role where media can come in and give out this message easily to the prospective travelers. To discuss this and more, as I said, we have a great panel today. And before we go on to our panelists, let me first bring in Mr. Avinash Chandra Mishra, the Joint Director, Tourism, Government of Uttar Pradesh. He's the key speaker for today from the Government of Uttar Pradesh Department of Tourism. Mr. Avinash Chandra Mishra holds MPhil in psychology and is a trained psychologist. So probably he will understand the psychology of tourists much better than any one of us on this panel, and probably he does too. He graduated from the Indian Institute of Forest Management, and Avinash is a trained rock climber himself and a player of badminton during his free time, which I doubt he finds these days with so much work that he's on. Mr. Mishra has very successfully organized the 350 years celebration of Taj Mahal in Agra and has been organizing Deepotsav in Ayodhya, which has become Uttar Pradesh's much awaited landmark calendar event. overseeing Varanasi's Kashi Vishwanath corridor development, Ayodhya in the making, and now Vindhyachal corridor project. Mr. Mishra is, I can safely say, at present, is driving tourism growth in the state, juggling between all these mega projects. May I request you, Mr. Mishra, to kindly unmute your microphone and give your opening remarks.
Thank you, Prateek ji, for introducing me to the panel. And first, I would like to congratulate you for you and the FICCI team and MKITM for organizing this unique series of webinars. And I would also like to thank the esteemed panelists and the eminent stakeholders of tourism industry. Today's topic is the role of media in reviving the tourism. As we know that media plays a very important role in all aspects of our life, and in tourism, it plays a more important role than the other aspects of life. And at this juncture, the role of media is very pertinent. And when we are at the lowest in tourism, and at our lowest, and just to regain the confidence of the traveler, just to bring them out from their places to explore new destinations. The role of media is plays a very crucial role in bringing them out. And apart from their role, it's more important that our responsive role or responsive journalism should be more, you can say, boost more tourism. I was saying that the media, we need a hand-holding from the media just to boost the tourism. Our responsible journalism is why I'm saying that we need responsible reporting. You know that our industry is very sensitive, and small negative news can cause a larger damage than a smaller good news for what boost we are getting. So, like when I was in Agra long back, it's a 15-year back story. A small incident or accident took place, which led to burning of a truck by the local people. And next day, there was a headline in the electronic media that Agra is burning. That caused a large number of cancellations and it took us almost 6 months to revive back. My just point is just we need a very sensible coverage, a very responsible coverage. Of course, we need the whole holding from the media, but a positive coverage is more important than normal coverage. And I'm not saying that they should not mention the lackings. They must also mention where we are lacking. That will help us to take correction measures from our side, from our administration. But any information, any news which causes long-term damage, maybe, can be, should be avoided. So it's not point of contention how media is important. We all know media is very important nowadays because of its reach, because of its time of reaching. In fraction of seconds, the small information is from part of the being spread, then certainly it will be going to boost our tourism industry. And at this juncture, it's a requirement of the time that we get a handholding from the media. I want to also put some points like during the you can say during the lockdown, we used our strength to strengthen our infrastructure facilities at the places which are of not lesser known but less promoted, like Sringvepur, Chitrakoot, and Ayodhya. In fact, also there are few places in around Varanasi, like in Chandoli, there is Rajari Devdari waterfalls, and in Pilibhit Chuka sanctuary. So we just strengthened our infrastructure over there just to divert the domestic tourists from major spots like Agra and Varanasi to these lesser known destinations, which are equally attractive. And it would also help us to hold them for more time, to spend their more time in Varanasi. We also developing many places nearby, as you know, nearby Varanasi, like Chunar, like Markande Mahadev, and other places. We are just going to start a cruise from 5th of this month, the next month, from Varanasi, regular cruise from Varanasi to Chunar. Like so, you know, in past we have been organizing Travelitis Conclave for regular 3 years, for really 3 years, and again we wish to start them soon. And in pipeline, there are two major events. You know, we celebrate the homecoming Lord Rama at Ayodhya, Dipotsav, and Dev Diwali at Varanasi. These events will certainly boost us to attract more domestic tourists, apart from the foreign tourists, to these cities. And I would like to extend an invite for all the stakeholders and all the fraternity people just to visit Ayodhya during the Dipotsav. We are also going to organize, along with IATO and FICCI, you can say fan tour for Ayodhya. So it would be better, but you just see yourself this year how, in a grand way, we are going to celebrate the Dipotsav at Ayodhya. And I also like to conclude that in the present time, tourism in the media is media plays a very crucial role. So we need certainly handholding and cooperation from the media. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra. I agree with your point that the reporting has to be responsible, and we saw the kind of damage that we have had from because of a lot of unfounded negative reporting in the media during the COVID also, because as I mentioned, nobody raised how effectively the state of Uttar Pradesh was able to manage the COVID situation, but everybody was talking about the lack of oxygen and how people were dying on the roads and all those things, which has traveled far and aimlessly. So the factual situation was very different, and we all know, being in the state of Uttar Pradesh, that how effectively the government was able to manage the situation, and no other state could in that perspective. And also, I appreciate your point about the regional development, which is the crux of the tourism, that it is not about one specific destination that has to be developed, but you are doing some remarkable work in and around the areas of Varanasi, and I have witnessed most of it. And this will hold back the tourists, increase the number of nights, which will be good for the stakeholders, especially the hoteliers and the tour operators, exploring the places nearby. And thank you for your invite. And I'm sure the panelists who are there today and many more will be a part of this FAM tour, this Deepotsav, and they'll be happy. In fact, I've already I mean, people are asking me that how can I reach Ayodhya? So I told them, Mr. Mishra is doing something for us, don't worry. But this is a good invite coming straight from you, Mr. Mishra. Thank you very much for your remarks.
Thank you, Prateek. Thank you.
Now, we are also extremely honored to have a very senior travel media person with us today, author, travel writer, food critic, and a columnist, Puneetinder Kaur Sidhu. She's also an adventurous foodie and writes on a wide variety of subjects. She's a regular contributor to national and international publications, apart from having penned over a dozen travel guides for Lonely Planet, including a full series on the state of Uttar Pradesh that she has done. And she also writes for the Times Food Guide as well. Puneet is a recipient of Saryu Samman, which was given to her for introducing the varied facets of Ayodhya to the leisure traveler. Her latest book for Lonely Planet is Guru Nanak's Blessed Trail, covering over 80 gurudwaras associated with the founder of Sikhism across Punjab. Sidhu has also authored a comprehensive book on Samistha, Kumbh, and a driving guide called Experience Punjab on the Road, which is about her home state, Punjab. She's the co-founder of TCBG World, an initiative providing travel media solutions, and Puneet is headed the media and public relation engagement for the World Heritage Cuisine Summit. So over to you now, Puneet.
Thank you, Prateek. Thank you to Uttar Pradesh Tourism and FICCI for organizing these fabulous conversations. It's a great pleasure to be part of these conversations, especially as someone who has traveled extensively in the state of Uttar Pradesh, both for work and on leisure. Clearly, I've had a very close encounter with all the tourism assets that the state calls home, historical, monumental, literary, culinary. The list is quite countless, and I'm not exaggerating in that sense. I have a few ideas in which that could be considered for not just being tourism ready, but clearly we are, as you say, reasonably COVID ready as well. So the focus really should be on storytelling, you know, that as a travel writer, I feel that as much of the content that is coming out of Uttar Pradesh should be engaging, should be intriguing, should be enough to pique the interest of a potential tourist. Someone who's waiting to travel but needs just the right kind of hook. And I think we should be able to harness their interest or harness their attention by using a kind of a multi-pronged approach in which the government, experienced curators, and the media play an equally crucial role. I would say that to locals themselves, you know, there are so many places that have become quite oblivious of their own historical relevance. And I think we really need to get locals to start talking about that aspect of where they live. You know, what we have started calling backyard tourism. And I believe if district officers, tourism officers, and other stakeholders provide a kind of a platform for local, because really we can't reach out to each and every story that's out there to tell by way of content. We must have them tell those stories for us, so then we can experience them and then we move on writing about them. My own visits to, let's say, the Chambal area, for instance, I wasn't aware of a lot of the places around it till I actually started looking at local content. I discovered the heritage Havelis of Holipura because I was in the area. I discovered the the Rapri tombs and the Idgah by being in the right place and looking at for the right content. And of course, it's few and far between. So I think that's one area that which can be addressed. We have mentioned earlier in the conversation that we need the traveler or the tourist to stay longer once we have their interest. Right? So I think a lot of experiences that can be curated around emerging destinations, as well as around destinations that are popular already. We already have a captive audience that is there, and we provide them with more experiences to stay longer. And those experiences then get them to also share their perspective on their own platforms. Now the internet is just one big well of information. It's endless. It's, more you dig, the more information you will get. So that's how we use the media to for the stories to amplify, right? We mentioned Varanasi a little while ago. I mean, you can never have enough of Varanasi, no matter how many times you visit. There is, you can have immersive Vedic courses. You can have a visit to the akhadas. There's no end to what you can do in Varanasi. So those kind of experiences allow even the media to tell different and more engaging stories. I think advocating the good practices that are underway, that people are participating in and are promoting. I think those kind of stories also need to be, especially success stories around conservation, sustainability, responsible tourism. All of this, when it's brought to the attention of a potential tourist, and more of them are looking to travel in a sustainable and responsible fashion, right? So they are looking for that kind of an outing. They're looking for that kind of experience. There should be platforms similar to like the bird fair that was hosted in Budva, I think, a couple of years ago. The Budva itself is a destination that needs more attention. The whole Kishanpur and Katarnia Ghat area, I think those are that's an outstanding green belt that needs to be harnessed as well. And there are stories to be told over there. And I think media is ready to tell the stories as well, and the more stories we tell, the more it gets amplified from various different angles and different interests and different age groups. That's how the perception is going to change about UP being the destination and how UP brand building can be achieved that way. I also find that films, I think I'll just take another minute. I think I may have overshot my time, but I think even films celluloid is a really, really phenomenal way to use UP as a character in those films. We have it's a stronghold of Hindi literature. UP is. We have some of the finest talents in the literary world. Munshi Premchand, and I may mention Shatranj Ke Khiladi, for instance. It's a coming together of some of the finest talents in cinema, in a literary storyteller like Munshi Premchand, Satyajit Ray. Those are the kind of stories that we need. And now with the OTT platforms available, content has to be generated. There is an endless possibility out there. So I feel that all of these different areas and arenas can be harnessed for UP to start looking like, and for people to start looking at UP as a destination of choice, which is safe, secure, and provides all manner of experiences once you have access to that information. For that access of that information, I'm going to suggest what I think is rightfully called media groups, where you will invite credible voices. I say that since you stress upon credible reporting. So then you invite credible voices from around the world and allow them to showcase UP to their own audiences, irrespective of language, irrespective. They go back and showcase a UP which deserves the attention that the tourism department is wanting to provide. So I think if we can manage all of this together, like I said, it's a multi-pronged, and if it can be done, I don't think anything's stopping from UP garnering all those footfalls that it rightfully deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Puneet. And storytelling, yes, of course, I agree with you. Storytelling is a huge, huge thing where we need to work on. And I think storytelling is what drives tourists from world over, even domestic, to a particular destination. So it is very important. Films, of course, UP has an exclusive film policy and a lot of incentives that UP is giving to the films that are being shot for OTT platforms and otherwise commercial cinema, and that's how you see so many films being done in the state of Uttar Pradesh. So it's a kind of a single window system that UP has, and even the Department of Tourism kind of facilitates all this. So these are very important points that you have mentioned, and I'm sure that Mr. Mishra is taking a note of all these, and these will soon be highlighted. But I have a question for you, that when you were doing the Lonely Planet project for the state of Uttar Pradesh, you did travel a lot, as and to many offbeat places where, apart from Agra and Varanasi, of course. So can you tell us about those few places that really attracted you the most, and you think that have all the potential to become a great attraction as a tourist destination in the state of Uttar Pradesh?
Yeah, so many, countless. Just hang on. I think I may have. Can you see me? Hello?
I can't see you, but we can hear you. You can go on.
Okay, yeah. I think I may have pressed something by mistake.
It's okay. You can go on.
Yeah, so I'm going to just quickly say that there are. It's not an exhaustive list, right, of the places that have the potential to not just that I visited during my work, during my assignment. There was, of course, the whole Terai region is just so beautiful and lush, and I love the whole story behind Pithur. It has such a prominent mythological and legendary footprint, and of course, Rani Jhansi and Tantia. So history, I love that aspect. But the one place that I was really keen to see get the kind of attention that it deserves is Bundelkhand. And I'm so happy to hear Mr. Mishra mention that now that's become a focal point as well. So Bundelkhand has everything, as a destination. It offers you a very prominent Ramayan footprint in Chitrakoot. It has this, the most it recalls one of the most fearless sort of women of recent history, the Lakshmi Bai. We have the Kalinjar Fort that is, quite an architectural sort of gem that harks back to the Chandelas and the Bundelas, And I mean, it's just got everything. It has 3 beautiful rivers, the Ken, Betwa, Mandakini. Bundelkhand really needs a very concerted effort to have visitors experience all the wealth that it has to offer. And I, for one, am very willing to visit it and talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Puneet, for your input. So we are also equally honored today to have with us Mariellen Ward, who is a professional travel blogger since 2005 and runs an award-winning website, breathedreamgo.com. It is inspired by Mariellen's extensive travels in India. The site focuses on responsible travel, wildlife tourism, authentic cultural experiences, and female solo travel. In 2019, Mariellen received a National Tourism Award for Best Foreign Travel Blogger from the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. Mariellen also runs a custom tour business, India for Beginners, and has a great admiration for Uttar Pradesh. Though Canadian by birth, she considers India to be her soul culture. So over to you, Mariellen, for your comments.
Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of the webinar, and it's great to be part of a group of people who feel so strongly. I've just heard, 3 people in a row talk about how important media is to tourism, and this is like music to my ears. I love to hear this. Thank you so much. I think you're creating a really good milieu to talk about this subject and how important it is. And I just want to take one step back, though, for the viewers to be clear. When we talk about media, we might be talking about different types of media. So there's the news media, and they're the reporters who report for the newspapers. And they might be the ones who are reporting the information on, hard news and current news and statistics and all of those things. And then I think most of the people on this panel, we could consider ourselves in my view, a different type of media, in that we're, most of us, storytellers. So for myself, I'm not in the travel news. I'm not in news at all. I do have a degree in journalism, but I didn't want to pursue it. I wanted to pursue storytelling, and I love that Puneet emphasized storytelling, because I'm going to emphasize storytelling as well. And that people understand there's a complete difference in what we do as media. And I said in the other seminar that we did together, that my interest is really in what makes people decide, what makes people choose a destination. Oh, why do they go to one destination over another? I'm very fascinated by this subject, by this topic. And again, Puneet hit the nail on the head when she said storytelling. Again, I completely agree with that. I think it's not news, it's stories that grab people's hearts and minds, that inspire people. People travel because, they've something has scintillated them, and it's usually either a story, or maybe it's an amazing photograph or video, but it's usually something that's been created by someone who either is very talented or who really loved that place, went there and really loved it, and then they created a story around it. And the degree of effectiveness depends on the talent of the person, but I think we need to really engage more storytellers and support storytellers, because I actually do think that this segment of the media has maybe been underutilized and underemployed. I think we could be doing more. We could be creating platforms, not only our own platforms, but I just give you an example of my fellow travel blogger, Shivya Nath, has with a team created a platform called Voices of Rural India. And if you haven't seen it, I really suggest you take a look at Voices of Rural India. And so this is a platform that people created to give local people a voice. And they tell stories. And sign up for the newsletter. The stories will grab you. They're very interesting and different. And they can grab your interest and maybe make you want to visit that place. So I think for me, I've been for a very long time in the digital media. So I'm a very big believer in supporting digital storytellers, because literally everyone is online now, and everyone is on Google searching, and everyone is flipping through Instagram. So I personally, although my degree is in magazine journalism, I really want to suggest promoting digital storytellers as much as possible. And to that end, I actually did a little quick research just before we started, and I looked up offbeat Uttar Pradesh on Google, and only 2 examples came up in the Google search, and one of them was a TripAdvisor, and one of them was actually a travel and tour company that had done a blog about offbeat heritage getaways in UP. But when I searched offbeat Goa or offbeat Kerala or offbeat Rajasthan, I found pages and pages and pages and pages. And, you know, lesser known places, offbeat tours, undiscovered Goa, hidden places, hidden gems, and many people writing about these places. So there's absolutely no reason why the same types of stories can't be written about UP. Goodness knows there's enough there. We all know that. We don't, that's one topic I don't think any of us have to touch on is how much is in UP. We all know that. But the travel industry has historically, I don't want to step on Phillippa's toes because she's probably going to touch on this, but the travel industry has historically promoted largely the Golden Triangle and the Taj Mahal. But they haven't really, in terms of marketing, there hasn't been a huge push to market, to tell stories of the lesser known places. And this is what we really need to do. My experience of the travel industry in India, because I've been blogging since 2005, which is, you know, ahead of the curve. So I was always coming up against people who didn't really understand what I was doing, why I was doing it, or what the effectiveness was. Because my experience is the travel industry tends to focus more on sales than on marketing. And the storytelling can come under the umbrella of marketing. It can help marketing efforts. And I think this is where we really need to put a big focus to get these stories out there. I think that's really the most important thing that I want to say.
Yeah, I think so. Storytelling, Mariellen, is coming as a keyword which has started with Puneet, and then you took it further to say offbeat stories where we probably lag. And thank you for this research that you did, that we were not figuring on the offbeat destinations, or you just got two. So we need to think about this and work about this. But I have a question for you, that I heard that you were also doing a project where you were working to change India's negative perception abroad. Tell us something about this. It's a very interesting thing, and how can we, as a state of Uttar Pradesh or any other state for that matter, can benefit out of it?
Well, yeah, thank you very much for asking me that, because I think another element of storytelling that, you know, I want to underline is that storytelling can change the narrative. It can help change perception, and that's a real strength of storytelling. So I don't think that's something we should overlook. So I want to do a project. I'm not actually doing it yet, but I would love to work with some partners to do a project where we focus on telling stories about resilient India. So when I mention resilient India and telling stories about resilient India, there's kind of four key aspects that you know that I feel we could highlight, and probably more. Other people could probably come up with more, but the ones that came to me that seemed pretty obvious was the resilient culture of India. I mean, India's culture dates back, you know, to literally the mists of time. It's one of the oldest cultures still, you know, extant on Earth. And there's, you know, historical architecture going back thousands of years, time-honored rituals and traditions. Yoga is a very ancient practice. Another aspect of resilient India that we could focus on are the people of India. I mean, I think every traveler, I think every foreign traveler that I know of anyway, has always been impressed with how warm and resourceful and friendly and helpful Indian people are, and they just have an ability to overcome like no one else. And then there's resilient tourism brands and experiences, and this list is literally endless. Destinations, you know, and experiences all over India, but you could almost say, especially in UP, obviously the Taj Mahal, Varanasi, and then, you know, even Indian Railways taking a rail tour. This list could go on and on, but there's some very resilient experiences, destinations, and brands here. And then finally, you know, resilient rural and local experiences as well. There's, you know, time-honored experiences you can have in India, in, you know, small villages in UP, to rituals on the Ghats of Varanasi, This is true for all over India, but again, probably more true in UP than almost anywhere. So I think that, you know, what I would love to do is to get partners together so we can employ digital storytellers and get them telling these stories and changing the narrative and giving a positive, you know, I don't want to say the word spin, but a positive image of how resilient India is and how resilient India can be. And that you can count on this resilience if you come and visit India and you come and visit UP.
That's very interesting, Mariellen, and I would, in fact, request you to draft a proposal that how UP can do it. And as Mr. Avinash Mishra himself is here, who is in charge of even the marketing campaigns and the publicity, and he's done immense work on that subject. And it was his creation, the Travel Writers Conclave, that happened, and it was a huge hit. So it was his baby, actually. So he can probably, you know, think on those lines, and we need stories, positive stories to go out for our state of Uttar Pradesh, which has sort of many negatives. We have many negatives in our kitty, so we want to lessen those negatives. So in all manner, thank you, Mariellen, for those.
Thank you.
Now we have also with us Memsahib in India, or let me call her now Memsahib in UK, because she's sitting in the UK and hasn't been able to return to India. And I know how frustrated she is of not being able to return to India, because she loves India like anything. So we have Phillippa K with us, who has extensively written on travel to India for the Times of India, the Mint, and the Yorkshire Business. She runs a very popular and insightful blog, Memsahib in India, focusing on discovering India differently. Phillippa K has also authored a book titled Escape to India, which is now selling its second edition. She's the founder of Indian Experiences, the industry's only consultancy to the travel trade, with over 23 years of experience in working both out of the UK and India, and having been a tour operator herself, having consulted for tour operators, she has also been curating for hotels and experience companies. So Phillippa, can we have you in now, please?
Hi there. Thank you very much for that introduction, Prateek. And thank you to UP Tourism and FICCI and Mr. Mishra for allowing me some space to speak on this webinar. I'm going to come at it from a slightly different perspective. Prateek, as you well know, I've explored UP extensively. I totally fell in love with Lucknow when I was there. Yeah, Varanasi I visited several times. There's Chambal, Dudwa. It's a state that's awash with history, culture, art, craft, food. It has unique fairs, and as Puneet and Mariellen have quite rightly said, there's an abundance of opportunity for storytelling. I want to come at this from a slightly different angle, because I am originally from the travel trade. I do train travel companies globally on how to promote a different India, and with regard to that, I did some research with quite a few of the tour operators that I work with before today. The feedback that we're getting, and I think this will be important when we're looking at the stories that do need to be got out there, is that you have approximately 20% of the former travelling market who are just desperate to travel. They're just desperate to come back, and your hardcore Indophiles are just desperate to come back and go anywhere, and they are looking for stories and places to visit and to be inspired by and intrigued by. Then, of the travellers who would normally visit, you're going to have another 20 to 30% possibly who would like to come back, but they don't want to be the forerunners. They want to see what happens. They want to follow other people who've travelled, to see that it's safe, to see that it's, to give them that confidence to come back and travel again. And for this, they are going to need the social proof. So in terms of social media, it is the stories. It is, I think social media can play a really important role in harnessing the stories of safety, and in how India has now sort of come out of the second wave. It's progressing very successfully towards being a very safe destination once again. possibly one of the key messages that could be got out there and which will stand UP in good favour, in good stead, is talking about destinations, but destinations that aren't necessarily also the big tourist destinations. Give people confidence in visiting places that aren't awash with tourists necessarily, and that's where some of the the different destinations of UP can also come into their own. But also to play to the strengths and to play to the buzzwords these days. Puneet mentioned this, is that sustainable travel is the way forward. Regenerative travel and sustainable travel are the buzzwords these days. And I've written about how we're not going to prevent people from visiting mainstream destinations like Agra and Varanasi. So how can we make those mainstream destinations more sustainable? And it's by increasing the stay there. Okay, and increasing the stay there not gives a softer footfall on the destination, but it also allows for the development of experiences, which we've talked about, and the development of experiences and the development of stories. Now, I was very fortunate to be on the last UP Travel Writers Conference, and you realise just how much more there is to Varanasi as a destination, for example. I've spent 8, 9, 10 days in Agra exploring what else there is to do there. There are so many stories and experiences, and as well as increasing the length of stay, these experiences draw in the locals and the communities and the people of those destinations. And that in turn also makes this kind of travel much more sustainable, to bring in the local communities and make them feel more engaged in travel and tourism. And I would also say, and I think this is why we're also having this now, is start planning now. There's a plethora of culture, arts, crafts, foods, stories that need to be got out there. I think in terms of inbound, travel isn't necessarily going to recover until 2022, 23, but start a campaign now. Start the intrigue, start the stories, start people, hearing about UP and the different things that can be done there, so that it's the resilience, as Marielle was saying, has built up, the stories have built up, and it's in people's minds for when travel does open. But I also want to come at this from a slightly different perspective, and I listen with fascination to all the places that Puneet talked about. These are places that I would love to go to, but I think we also have to be realistic from an inbound tourism perspective. Okay, and we have to think about how the inbound tourism sector works. Okay, so you have certain tour operators, travel agents who travel to India, who come and experience it themselves and then talk to their clients about it. And encouraging them into UP by the storytelling and the experiences that they can offer their clients is vital. You also have a big, and I was always quite surprised by this, a big chunk of foreign tour operators and travel agents who don't come to India, who don't visit India, and they're very much reliant on the DMCs. Okay, now traditionally, a lot of DMCs stick to what sells. They stick to their bread and butter, which from a financial perspective and business perspective makes sense. But if you look at what they're selling, the Golden Triangle, it's as synonymous with it, it's just so synonymous with travel to India. Taj and Tigers is the second most popular itinerary, followed by the Golden Triangle and Varanasi. Now, if you look at the Golden Triangle and Varanasi, 50% of that itinerary is in UP, and I know we've talked about this before, for UP to come up with stories around itineraries that DMCs and tour operators can sell. It's not just looking at destinations, it's looking at the themes, it's looking at the itineraries. And this is going to be a key factor, because you have to get the DMCs on board. You have to get the tour operators on board. And if you've got 50% of the destinations in a Golden Triangle and Varanasi itinerary, why not make that to be, Lucknow instead of Jaipur? Taj and Tigers, have that as, Delhi, Agra, Lucknow and Dudhwa. Dudhwa needs to play to its strengths. It has much more diversity than Ranthambore, for example. It has rhino, it has elephant, it has tiger, it has 3 different parks. So play to those strengths to get people, into an alternative Golden Triangle, an alternative Taj and Tigers. So I think, there needs to be a focus on the storytelling, the promotion, the fam trips to DMCs. I agree wholeheartedly with fam trips for foreign journalists as well as domestic writers, but also fam trips for international tour operators to come and experience the destination themselves. And I think, I think it's going to be very interesting to see the way in which the tourism industry progresses. There've always been the very big DMCs, the very big travel companies. I think what's going to emerge now much more are smaller, more personalised and niche tour operators, travel agents and DMCs. And I think doing a very, very focused campaign on them and a research campaign on them. I mean, I know from my experience of working with some of the bigger DMCs and working with trade fairs and travel shows, a lot of tour operators get invited to these, but research hasn't been done on those tour operators to see if they are actually selling India. And I think what's going to emerge now are a lot more niche operators for textiles. That's becoming huge. Niche operators for food. That's also becoming huge. For your more mainstream tour operators that aren't quite so niche, they are looking for experiences. They are, customers now want to come and engage. Okay, and to write these stories, to inspire them, to create these experiences, to engage people, to give them the intrigue, as Puneet was saying, about these destinations, can play a vital role in getting the travel agents, the tour operators and DMCs on board as well. But I think my overriding and sort of lasting message to this is UP needs to become a brand. Uttar Pradesh needs to become a brand, because it's not now. Okay, you say Rajasthan to anybody and people think forts and palaces and deserts and tiger. You mention Kerala and everyone thinks of waterway, the backwaters and beaches and tea plantations and green. You mention Madhya Pradesh and people think about wildlife and natural heritage. You mention UP and people have no concept of what it can be in terms of tourism. And yet there's the Taj Mahal, the most famous monument, of India, the romance and the stories behind it. And I do appreciate the irony of me talking about that so effusively, but it's true. You have Varanasi, the most ancient city and spiritual city of India, So UP really needs to get out there. And it needs to work on becoming a brand. It needs to have a structured campaign. It needs to, think about this as a 2 to 3 year project to really develop a brand that people talk about. And when people mention UP in terms of tourism, they conjure up these phenomenal images and experiences that can be done there. Thank you.
Yeah, Phillippa, I think this brand thing that you have mentioned is really, really very important. And we should be working in that direction to make UP a brand and have our own brand image. We are one of the largest states and the most populous state in India. So we should at least, be able to attract tourists. Of course, we are privileged to have Taj Mahal in our state, for which the numbers go up. And then we host Kumbh and Magh Mela in Prayagraj, which again is a huge addition to those numbers. And of course, Varanasi, which is a must do. But there are a lot other destinations as well. And I should ask you, because you have also traveled in the state of Uttar Pradesh, and a lot you have traveled in the state of Uttar Pradesh. So what do you think, if changed, can work to the advantage of the state to get more tourists? Of course, marketing campaigns and farm tours and everything is okay. But apart from that, what do you think we should change, or the Department of Tourism, government of Uttar Pradesh can do to change and we start getting a lot of tourists into this state?
I think focusing on experiences, and I think infrastructure is a big factor. I was listening to Mariellen's point about offbeat UP. UP doesn't necessarily have those offbeat destinations, and if it does, it doesn't have the infrastructure of accommodation, again, decent accommodation there. You don't think of boutique hotels, you don't think of independent hotels. I know sort of, lovely Chambal is out there, which is fabulous. But there isn't a whole host of these offbeat activities with hotels that have a story. Because the other thing about these sort of lovely small independent boutique hotels and properties is that each of them has a story, and each of them becomes a place that people want to visit. So I think, in terms of really boosting UP, I almost kind of want to do a sort of, I love a challenge, Prateek. I kind of almost want to do a sort of challenge of, a Lucknow versus Jaipur, because that, in terms of inbound, is what it's going to come down to. Can you do an alternative golden triangle? Can you encourage, people to do that alternative golden triangle? But I think, to encourage stakeholders, to encourage more small boutique operators and hoteliers and niche tourism is where it's at.
Thank you, Phillippa. It's a day of women power today, and we have all women panelists on our panel today. So you can understand that how women are driving the travel media, the travel and tourism scene in India and world over, I would say. So this is one industry that is kind of an equal opportunity, or rather a better opportunity for women in this sector. So we have another lady with us who's Bharti Sharma. She's the editor of Travel Turtle, a magazine that is enlightening content and is equally aesthetic and a visual delight for its readers. A graduate in journalism and mass communication, Bharti brings a freshness and a millennial approach to the way of travel media is presented to its audience. As an editor of a travel magazine, Bharti has covered everything from airlines, hotels, destinations, to policies, bureaucracy, and domestic and international events, adding substance to her journalistic acumen. Bharti believes that tourism is a subject of substance. It's much more than flights, hotels, and sightseeing. It benefits communities, restores culture, and allows us to explore the best of ourselves. So may I now request Bharti Sharma to you to kindly unmute your microphone and give your remarks.
Thank you so much for that intro, Mr. Hira, and thank you so much for having me. I would like to thank all the panelists who are here with me, and also to the audience who have joined us across various platforms. I would like to congratulate the UP Tourism Board and also FICCI for organizing the series of webinar on being tourism ready. I'm pretty confident that the initiatives like this will help the industry to revive in a more positive way. So I think I would start with UP as a destination. So if we talk about tourism products, culinary, heritage, architecture, and development, so I think Uttar Pradesh has it all, and it tops the list, right? Also, Uttar Pradesh is not only the most populous state in India that we have, it is also the most diverse state that in India, right? So also, we all know that UP tourism has seen great tourism numbers over the years, and obviously because it has the Taj Mahal, which is not only the jewel of Uttar Pradesh but is also the jewel of India. So Agra is great, but honestly, I am thrilled to see the development that is happening in Ayodhya and Varanasi. And obviously, we all know the Ayodhya temple, that Ram Mandir is coming up in Ayodhya. And then there's international airport, which is coming up in Ayodhya. And I'm pretty sure that this is not only going to boost the tourism in the area, in the region, but as we know that tourism has a domino effect. So this will definitely help in the economy of the region. So I must say, though this is going to boost the tourism in the region, and then we have Varanasi as well. But at the same time, I, as an avid traveler, or maybe as a journalist, I still do not want the focus to be shifted from Agra to Ayodhya to Varanasi, because I personally feel UP is such a diverse state, and it has a lot to offer to every segment of tourists. So UP has wildlife, UP has something for adventure travelers, and then culinary. It is famous for culinary, and I think, Mr. Hira, you have arranged a lot of like food walks, and you have such amazing experience in your itinerary, and I've seen that. So I think that needs to be promoted to the travelers. And also, like there is Dudhwa National Park, then there is Katarnia Ghat, then there is Nawabganj. So all these destinations are also, I would really like to ask the audiences also today, UP has a beach, and I don't know how many of the listeners know about this. And even I recently got to know about this. So yeah, it is beautiful, and it's Chuka Beach. And I have seen the pictures; they are breathtakingly amazing images. But honestly, I have not found enough results on the internet. I have only seen it because I have a lot of friends in Uttar Pradesh, and I have traveled a lot to Uttar Pradesh. So they have showed me the images, and it's amazing. And I think even Phillippa has mentioned about the potential that Dudhwa has. It has such great tree houses, right? And it has amazing resorts. So the basic infrastructure, in fact, more than basic, the infrastructure is already there. But I think apart from that infrastructure, uh, a proper marketing has to be in place from the tourism board, or maybe through us, through the media. So here, I think our role comes into play, because though the destination has enough infrastructure, but still, through marketing, it can attract more investors and stakeholders, so they can come in and do their thing. And we have seen that happening in Ayodhya as well. Now we have a lot of five-star properties that are coming in there. They have purchased their land, they are on lease, but they are coming up, they are setting up their properties. Varanasi already had a lot of these brands, but even Ayodhya is now picking up a lot. And I think a proper marketing needs to be in place, because whenever even in the Ayodhya International Airport, whenever it's coming up, because there are a lot of devotees of Lord Rama worldwide. So whenever it opens on the first flight, there should be tourists. So for that, we have to start the marketing way in advance, because it's not like a 2-day, 3-day process. It's a long process. So we have to follow that, right? So I think as a media, I must say that we have to collaborate, because it's always a unified efforts that we have to do. If only the tourism board alone, or as a media, I cannot do that. So unified efforts are required, not only through print media, but to different mediums, like from through social media, through digital media, print media, mainstream media. We have to target all these medias together. So we have to promote the destination in a unified way. Then only I think the results will be there. So the UP tourism, like you have started the series being tourism ready. It's a very great initiative, and I was very happy to be part of it. And I think series like this should be there. Collaborations should be there with the media, with the tour operators. And since we are discussing media, so I'll focus more on media today. But series like these should be there. And I think we have resources, but we just have to utilize them. So yeah.
Bharti, very important point you mentioned, that the focus should not be shifted, which is very important. Focus should not be shifted. What I understood is that when we are selling Varanasi, we should go on selling Varanasi with the same effort, with the same zeal. And it's not like when Ayodhya comes up, we stop selling Varanasi, or, so this is so it has to be a parallel attention that has to be maintained. So this is one important point that I take from your input. And another important point is that this is everybody's industry. Everybody is involved, and government is a stakeholder. We as operators, media persons, everybody is a stakeholder in tourism development, growth. So this is a very important aspect. But I have a question for you, because you are from the print media. And as an editor and I have been reading your magazines, they are very well presented, and I just received my copy this afternoon, which is fabulous. As an editor of the printed travel magazine, and also a content contributor, how you are engaging your readers and delivering to their choice? I mean, what is the kind of post-COVID content that you are doing now?
Okay, so I think as a travel editor of a magazine, I must say the onus is on us, right? The onus is on is on us to present our facts, present our news in the most responsible way. Because our job is not only to disseminate information, it is to disseminate information with facts. Hello, am I audible? Sorry.
Yes, yes, very much. Please go on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I was saying that our job is not only to disseminate information with facts, because and we otherwise we get like hundreds and thousands of WhatsApp forwards every day with some news or the other. But where is authenticity? So as the media person, it's our responsibility to fact check every news, every report that we get on daily basis, or always whenever we report anything, we have to fact check. And also, I think in the past 1.5 years, all must have witnessed that people were doing they found it devastating, and I'm pretty sure because the scenario wasn't that good, and there were not like good incidences to show to the people. There was hardly any positive news coming in that time. But still, a few media houses, we have noticed that they've been acting very opportunistic that way, and that behavior was not good. And we have seen the traces of yellow journalism throughout this time, right? So I think the responsibility is on us. So also, I remember when after the lockdown, when we were supposed to, come out with a print issue. So there were a lot of apprehensions around that time, like if we should go with the printing magazine or not, if we should print the magazine or not. But then, we took the feedback from the industry. What do they want to read? What type of stories do they want to listen? And I think we all must agree that dynamics have changed a lot after the COVID. In fact, there has been a paradigm shift when it comes not only when it comes to the travel industry, but also if you talk about the publishing industry. And most of the people say that print is dying, but honestly, I do not feel. And talking about the basically the marketing thing, I think we've been focusing ourselves not only we have not been focusing only on print, but also on social media and digital media also. So that thing is there. So I think, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think I also love the printed magazines very much, and I make it a point to read all these magazines. And I loved your article on dark tourism, I must say. I must
Oh,
compliment
yes.
you on that. It was very nice in these dark days, actually. So we are in a dark tourism days, actually. So
Yeah.
anyway, so it goes without saying that the media has a huge role to play in influencing travel decisions, and more so now as people would like to travel more and to newer places. So media will come in handy, the social media, the print media, and all kinds of things that are going on. So it is very important, and destinations and business now must engage more with media, which is one of the most important pillars of tourism, just like it is the fourth pillar of democracy. The mediums have evolved, rather only expanded, but the relevance of media has grown immensely over the years, and it would be for our own benefit to work with it more closely to get the best advantage for our destinations. Ladies and gentlemen, now I am privileged to propose a vote of thanks for today's session on behalf of Government of Uttar Pradesh, Department of Tourism, MKITM, and FICCI. First of all, I thank Mr. Mukesh Mishra, Principal Secretary and the Director General, Tourism, Government of Uttar Pradesh, who has not been able to join us today because of the visit of the President of India to Uttar Pradesh. He's already in Lucknow. Tomorrow he travels to Gorakhpur, and on Sunday he's spending time in Ayodhya. So you can understand he'll be the first President of India to be in Ayodhya. So Mr. Mukesh Mishra is busy with this, and Mr. Avinash Mishra also will be leaving for Ayodhya now to oversee all the arrangements. So entire office is kind of shifting to Ayodhya, and he's, by the way, traveling by train, which is his second train that he's taking into Uttar Pradesh. So he'll be traveling by train from Lucknow to Ayodhya by this special train, which is royal coaches that were sort of transformed for this travel. So it's a big show, you know. So Ayodhya, you can understand how important Ayodhya and Gorakhpur and Lucknow are now, and how important Uttar Pradesh is. So we are thankful to him, of course, for giving us this opportunity to host this mega series of webinar. We are thankful to Mr. Avinash Chandra Mishra, the Joint Director Tourism, Govt of UP, who has been with us today and has been working quite closely with media as a part of his work profile in the Department of Tourism, Govt of Uttar Pradesh. In fact, I must mention today that his support for all the positive initiatives in tourism in the state are immense, and for all of us to see. I, on behalf of FICCI, assure Mr. Mishra that we will always stand by the Department of Tourism, Govt of UP, and share the dream of seeing our state grow through tourism. Thank you, Mr. Avinash Chandra Mishra. I express my gratitude to all the panelists who joined us in today's webinar, Ms. Puneetinder Kaur Sidhu, Ms. Bharti Sharma, Mariellen Ward, and Phillippa K. Each of your views are so important and relevant, and I must say that you have always stood by our state, and the state of Uttar Pradesh recognizes your indispensable role in its growth and development. I must also thank Dr. Anushri Banerjee, the Publication Officer of UP Tourism, for coordinating this entire series on behalf of the Govt of UP and taking personal interest in its smooth conduct. A very special thanks to our very own FICCI team, Mr. Manish Ahuja, Amit Gupta, Samanda, Chetan, and Divjot Anand, who work tirelessly to make each of these webinars every week a success. And of course, to the host of audience, your fan following of the panelists is so huge that we have a record number touching in this webinar, which is 5,100 people who are watching you live at the moment on different platforms of the Govt of Uttar Pradesh and FICCI, WebEx, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So thank you to the lovely audience, and of course, your, you are fans of these, so the panelists must thank them to join us in such a huge number, and this is for the first time that this has happened. Before we part today, I would like to remind you that next Friday, on the 3rd of September at 3 p.m., we will bring you yet another session as a part of this webinar series. And probably this session is on Kushinagar in the making. So we will be joined by the District Magistrate Kushinagar and the City Magistrate, 2 IAS officers, the Principal Secretary, and some local enthusiasts and research scholars who will be showing all the things that Kushinagar is doing, including the international airport, which is already ready in Kushinagar. So thank you once again for being a part of this webinar, and hope to see you again in another webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.